Betting for breakfast, a little Sunday nooner today. It is a beautiful day to bet college football, and we're going to do just that. I'm Mark Drumheller. I'm here with Dave Gleckner. And Dave, FCS playoffs today. We got 4 quarterfinal games. We're down to the Elite Eight, if you want to call it that. But it's going to be an awesome day of college football because we have games at 3, 6, and 9. All of them televised. The primetime game is on ESPN, North Dakota State and Sam Houston State, which I can't wait to get into. But it feels good to be back. I mean, college football is our roots. That's what we started this stream on. And, you know, it's really in our wheelhouse. And it's been a tough FCS season, but we're here. We're in the playoffs, and we got 4 good games to dig into.
Yeah, but I'm pumped. I mean, it's playoff football. It's semifinal, quarterfinal football with a chance to get to the semis here, right? And it's, there's some good teams and there's some local ties coming into today, too. Obviously, with the Blue Hens playing, powerhouses like North Dakota State. You're right. It's for those that may not have followed FCS all the way like we have, today's a day to dial in and actually see some really good football. I mean, most of these games are 2-3 point games. It's sure to be something.
Yeah, a lot of the spreads are tight. A lot of the spreads are tight within 3 points. And then you have, the number 1 seed, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, laying a big number, 15.5 today. So against a Southern Illinois team that I want to talk about a lot when we get to it, Dave, because they've had an incredible journey this season. They've been through a ton of adversity, and they made some shockwaves early in the season of beating the Bisons, and it's been an up and down season for them, and they got a tall task ahead of them against South Dakota. But in general, I think that this is a great time for the playoffs to occur because we're just coming off the heels of the NFL draft, right? And, the big story of the draft was the San Francisco 49ers at 3. Who are they going to draft? They draft Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. And one of the main questions was the level of competition. So I think it's awesome today for people not familiar with the FCS to kind of see them on the stage, see the best teams compete today, because there are a lot of good football players out in the field, and it is fun. It's fun football, man, and I embrace it. Like I wish they would do this in the spring every year, just because it kind of gets me through that dull time of the season.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, we talked about it earlier, when we started this, like, this spring football is starting to make a little bit of sense, especially for these schools like, we're looking at these FCS schools that really don't have much of a chance to ever play on, national TV, or at least TV that, gets some watches. So why not play different than the big guys? Why not roll into the spring and play now and get a little bit of, camera time, and maybe this is good for their potential draft prospects too, right? So it'll work. I don't know if it'll stick, but man, I've loved it.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to stick because of what you said, the draft, right? I guess anybody who is eligible for the draft would kind of opt out for the season, right? They wouldn't want to kind of risk it. We saw that with Trey Lance, and that sort of type of thing. But it's been a really hard season to handicap for me personally, just because of the limited amount of games they played. And now that we're into the playoffs, there was no really cross-conference experience, very little cross-conference experience. So all the games have been pretty much in conference. So now that we get into the playoffs and these teams are playing outside of their conference, we're finding out who's who. And, a lot of, when you think of the FCS college football, you think of North Dakota State, you think of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and I think they showed their dominance. And that was kind of one of the questions I had going into the playoffs is this conference as good as it's billed, especially this year? And they showed it. I mean, they were 4-1 last week in round 1 of the playoffs. They had 5 teams get in to the 16-team playoff, and they're 4-1, and their only loss was Missouri State, who lost to another, Missouri Valley Football Conference team in North Dakota. They got steamrolled, but they've been very successful so far. So we're getting 4 of the 8 teams on display today from the Missouri Valley Football Conference. So that's going to be really something that I'm very aware of, looking forward in these games, because, they're obviously, after the first round of the playoffs, it shows me that they're the premier conference.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then what's the name of Delaware and James Madison? They're the Colonial, right?
Yep. They're the CAA. Yep.
So you got to give them props too, right? I mean, you got obviously a perennial powerhouse in JMU, but Delaware went fully undefeated, got the automatic bid. James Madison had to get the votes to get in. They got in, and now look, you got two of them in the Final Eight.
Yeah. I mean, those teams, and James Madison's a team highly ranked all season and really has a chip on the shoulder from the way it was seeded in this 16-team tournament. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they come out today. Tough game against North Dakota. We'll get into that one. But how did you end up doing this weekend? I know we got a lot going on outside of college football, but in general, how that bets hitting for you this weekend?
Not bad. I only punched in 2 baseballs so far. Was able to get St. Louis yesterday. The Phils actually let me down yesterday with a 5-4 loss. So a little 1-1 split so far. Golf matchup's been very good. Got a little run-in. Posted a couple on Twitter today. Little late action on Abraham Answer. I like how he finished yesterday, shooting a 66. 4 strokes off the leads, not insurmountable, especially when Bradley and Sam Burns came back with bogey on 18. So kind of like his 20-1 odds with 4 strokes off. And then we'll see. I got a little early money on Hoffman. He's 5 off. So I got some betting interest, rooting interest this afternoon, and probably post a baseball play while we're talking here after we get through these FCS games. How about you?
Nice. Love it. Up and down. Listen, so we hit the golf plays yesterday. The matchups I went 2-1. But UFC last night was a loss, and it's been pretty much, I've been pretty streaky in UFC since football's ended. Once football ended in February, I kind of had a couple cards that didn't go the right way, and then I went on a streak. I won like 6 straight cards. I was in the positive, and then last week we ended up on the wrong side of the ledger, and then last night we did too. I had 3 plays. I had an underdog of plus 115 and Dustin Jacoby. He ended up losing a 10-8 round in round 1, so it ended up being a draw because he won rounds 2 and 3. So I definitely think he was the better fighter. Should have cashed in on that one with the draw. Obviously, no bet. And I lost one of the undercard fights on Cody Stamann, a big dog that I had that I thought I had a chance. He didn't deliver, and then I lost the main event. So it was 0-2-1. The main event, Dominic Reyes. Did you see that knockout, that spinning elbow by Petroska?
I did. It was just amazing. When that's nasty. A 1 in 1,000, landing those. You see him thrown here or there.
Yeah.
It's all air. And when you get that, it's lights out.
But that was a hell of a fight. But definitely looking to finish the weekend strong. I'm going to have 3 plays as well. I'm going to have baseball. I'm going to have a hockey. And then I'll give out the my golf outright that I like for today to see who we're going to take it home. But without further ado, let's get into the FCS college football playoffs. The first game of the day is the main game. We got 2 games kicking off at 3, but let's start with the big one that's on ESPN. The North Dakota State Bisons, pretty much the Alabama of the FCS, right? They're the big dynasty there. Ton of national championships, ton of success, and can they, come back and repeat? They're actually road favorites today against the Sam Houston team, Sam Houston State. -2.5, it's down to. It was between 3, now it's down to 2.5. We got an over-under on 47.5 here, and this is a very interesting game to me, Dave, because we have a Bison's team that is really powered by running the football. We have a Sam Houston State defense, very good against the run. And listen, I faded the Bisons last week. I was on Eastern Washington. I got about 8.5 points. I was very excited with that position. Eastern Washington went up 20-7. I was almost counting the money in the green as it was delivered. And then boom, North Dakota State ran off like 35 points and ended up blowing them out the door. I don't even know the final score. I stopped paying attention when I knew it was out of reach, but 20-7 lead went all wrong. And the Bisons, showed their dominance again. And they're a team that is really peaking at the right time against the Sam Houston State team, though, that is just looks really good across the board. So this is one I'm really excited about.
Yeah, good points. I mean, it ended up 42-20. You're right, 35-0, just onslaught late in that game. And it's just, I had North Dakota State earlier this year when they lost to, Southern Illinois at home. I think it broke a huge streak. Really just started to see the cracks in that team. And it was really circled around quarterback Zeb Nolan. And they decided, we're rolling with the freshmen. And since then, they've started to get their things together. QB Cam Miller has come in, local product, like I said, true freshman. He really didn't think he'd start playing games until 2 years from now, because with the prospects of maybe Trey Lance staying another year. But it's all started to figure themselves out. Sam Houston State was, I think they either have the most, or they were before they played Monmouth last week, the highest point differential in FCS. They're 7-0. They are rolling. They're tough, but they showed their potential weakness last week in the game against Monmouth when they only, squeaked by 21-15. Defense dominant again, but it was the offense. And if they're not able to move this ball against a really good North Dakota State team, I'm a little worried. I like the team that has the experience. I like the team that feels like they figured it out. I like the Bison in this game.
Yeah, that scares me a little bit, because this could be my blind spot. Is like, I just feel like I committed to myself, and I guess I talked myself into that this Bison's team little overrated. And earlier in the season, like you said, they had that loss to Southern Illinois, a couple other lackluster games. And I feel like I convinced myself that they were underrated, and I keep betting against them, and they keep losing money. And I think I'm going back to the well one more time. I'm going to take one more swing at them this weekend. I'm going to take Sam Houston State here, and I got them on the money line. I don't want the points. I think they can win this game outright at home. And when I look at Sam Houston State, when I look at this team, quarterback Eric Schmidt, over 2,100 passing yards, 5th in the FCS. They're top 8 in passing efficiency. They're going to have to limit the turnovers. Turnovers are going to kill them in this game, because Bisons are going to control the time of possession with that power running game. Schmidt does have 15 touchdowns, 7 picks, so we can't see that today. But he is top 4 in yards per completion, 15.6 yards per completion. And this is an offense that, they hung 71 against Nicholls State in the big 71-17 victory they had, 62 against Lamar. They put up 40+ against Southeast Louisiana and Incarnate. Both those teams are ranked. Nicholls State was ranked in the top 10 when they throttled them. And, I really think that the defense is going to determine their fate. I think they have enough to score some points. We saw last week the Bisons let up 20 points early against Eastern Washington, which is a very prolific offense. Sam Houston State not as prolific, but I think they can score some points, and it's really going to be up to whether the defense can stop or slow down that Bison's running game. Sam Houston State's defense, they played the number 1 rushing offense in Incarnate. They beat them in that game because they were able to stop them from running. They beat them 42-14. Nicholls, who they crushed, same thing. They were the number 4 offense. And even Monmouth in the playoffs last week, you talked about that game, 21-15. Got very close at the end, got very dicey. Sam Houston State unable to cover, but they were up 21-0. They did hold that Monmouth offense, which was top 10 in the FCS, scoreless 4 3/4. So when I look at the Bison's team, right, total offense, 354 yards per game, 44th in the FCS, and they're just very run dependent with the fullback Lupke. They have to beat you 3 yards at a time, and they're physically dominant enough to beat everybody they face pretty much 3 yards at a time. And if they have to go for it on 4th and 2, they go for it and they smash it and they get it. I mean, they are literally, probably Pete Carroll's favorite team ever, right? Can't run the ball enough, this team. And I really think that, if they can slow down that rushing attack, I think that they're going to be able to score enough points to really make the Bison's life miserable. If they can shut down the Bison's running game, I think it's a wrap. When you look at Sam Houston State, best red zone defense of the remaining teams on the field, and that's going to be key. Because if North Dakota State has to get field goals, it's going to be trouble for them in this game. And I really think that this is that cross-conference matchup that you talked about, where Sam Houston State has all the metrics as far as their rushing defense. Everything looks good, red zone defense, rushing defense, but they're playing the best of the best in the Bisons this week, Dave, and it might be a blind spot for me. Like I said, betting against the Bisons. I do have a little plus 500 on Sam Houston State to win this whole thing. Maybe that's affecting my judgment, but it's going to be a tremendous game, because it is. The Bisons are running into the brick wall of Sam Houston State's rushing defense, and whoever's going to win that line of scrimmage battle, I think is going to come home with the victory.
You know what? You might have just convinced me to kind of switch my tune. So I don't want to. I might not go there. I'm just going to take a step back and look at it a little more. But I did read something about North Dakota State's defense, I think they've allowed their opponents to score 100% of the times when they entered the red zone. So you just said the best red zone defense in FCS, and you're probably got the worst. Where I struggled in my analysis and handicapping this was Sam Houston State only ran 42 plays last week versus Monmouth's 93. So we obviously know that they were not efficient with the ball. They were still able to put up a decent amount of yards when they did get plays. They put up some big chunks here and there, but not being able to close out 21-0 efficiently. Starting to see the better competition. I'm just worried about this steamroller that the Bison are on.
It's like they're like Alabama, man. They've been there, they're seasoned, they know how to win. They're on the road though, and I think that's key. They're not in the Fargo Dome, they're on the road. But what I'm really worried about, and I have Sam Houston State, I got them at plus 118 on the money line. I expect them to win this game outright, but where it can go wrong is, like I said, turnovers. Like if Eric Schmidt has turned the ball over, it is going to be a problem because they're not going to get the ball back. The Bisons are just going to try and pound them as much as possible. And that's really it. And then, the other concern is, Sam Houston State looked great against Nichols State's running game, against Incarnate Word's running game, right? But these are more finesse running games. The Bisons are a different animal, a completely different animal. And, I'm betting here that Sam Houston State is going to be physical enough to answer the bell there and kind of slow them down. And, hold them to field goals in the red zone. But it is definitely not a given because, we've seen this a lot of times where teams out of conference play. We saw it just last week with Eastern Washington. They play this Bison's team and they find out that it's not the same.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. This was the hardest one for me to kind of analyze here. You're making a good case for those Sam Houston State. What are they, the Bearcats?
Yes. Eat 'em up cats. That's the hashtag. Eat 'em up cats.
Yeah, with a K too, right?
Yeah, Casey Keeler, man, old Delaware guy.
Yeah.
So he runs the program there. Maybe maybe I'm a little local, hey, I don't know, man. Maybe, but I like them. I'm on a plus 500 to win the whole thing. I think that, they were really the best value on the board. South Dakota State looks incredible. But they were at like plus 175. I just think that, Sam Houston State, it's going to be a matter of, are they good enough to play with the big boys of Missouri Valley? And I think they have a lot to prove in that regard. A lot of people keep saying they're not. So they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder. They're at home. We got a 47.5 total here. I would not go over. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think this one's going to be a low scoring game. And like I said, I think that if it's really going to come down to the line of scrimmage. Now, listen, Sam Houston State's not going to shut down the Bison's running game, but if they can slow them up enough, hold them to field goals in the red zone, I think they can get it done on offense.
Nice. Well, you're talking Casey Keeler, you're talking Delaware. Might as well go to the next game on the board.
Let's move on to Blue Hens. Bleed blue for the 302. Delaware plus 3 at Jacksonville State. This one's come down. So, the market kind of moving in Delaware's direction was 3.5. I believe I got this one at 3.5. Yes, I did 3.5 with Delaware. Against the Jacksonville State team, Dave, we were talking a little bit offline. This is a team that I can't figure out. They played, I felt like they were very overrated coming into the season. They played a lot of bad teams tight. They get by with a running game. And I bet against them. I took Davidson to 21.5. I looked good for about a quarter. Davidson was hanging with them. And then right before halftime, Jacksonville State reeled off 3 touchdowns. And then they just went on. I think it was like 42-14. They won. Again, another game that I stopped paying attention to early because I knew my money was going in the trash can. But they're a team that I've been fading. And this is 2 teams. Delaware, pretty much built the same way. More of a power running game. But they want to run the ball, they want to control the clock, and a great rushing defense. Both these teams have good rushing defenses. Both these teams rely on the run. 41.5, you can see that's reflected in the total. So this is going to be an interesting one for sure, Dave.
It is. And I mean, I kind of look at, how those teams played last week. And you mentioned it, Jacksonville State came off the huge blowout. What was it, by like 49 points, was it? I mean, they just
yeah.
And Delaware, they were a 3 touchdown favorite and kind of scraped by. I mean, that game had a little bit of doubt going early into the fourth. Delaware gets a late touchdown to get it to double digits, but never at one point were they going to cover that game, it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
So you got two teams kind of looking in different directions from a bettor's perspective. I'm sure people feel burnt from taking Delaware last week. And now this is one of those opportunities. I think they're two very close teams. Both teams really hinge on their defense. Like you say, Delaware surprises me. They're efficient both passing and running. They're, average over 30 points per game. QB Nolan Henderson, running back Dewan Lee are the big pieces of that team. And they just are – you can't just key in one aspect of them. Where I'm a little worried is Delaware's strength on defense is really in their secondary, and Jacksonville State's strength is running. So they might have to, bring one of those guys in the box a little bit here to really, offset that power. But this game, I mean, don't take the over. Here's another one.
Yeah, it's another one. It's going to be
defenses, two very good running attacks. Delaware maybe a little better at passing the ball. It's going to be a nail biter the whole way. I like the Blue Hens in this one, though. I really do. I think they pull the upset.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the only way this game goes over is if Jacksonville State runs away with them. And this is another one. It's tough to gauge because how do you gauge the level of competition between the two conferences? Because we just don't have any data on it last year. And Delaware, like I said, I think they're undervalued here because of the fact that they were big favorites last week. They didn't cover against Sacred Heart. They hung on 19-10. But, Sacred Heart has Julius Chestnut, who is the leading rusher in the entire FCS. They give him, 1,000 carries, 1,000 receptions. He's pretty much their whole offense. So they held their ground against that type of running attack. And, it didn't look great. It wasn't pretty, but they were able to come away with the win. And I think Sacred Heart, Jacksonville State, similar strengths there with the rushing attack, both ranked 13th and 15th in the FCS in rushing. So, both these teams also very good at creating turnovers on defense, 4th and 7th. So that's going to be a key in this type of game. Whoever wins the turnover battle is going to come away with the victory. But the difference here and why I like the Delaware Blue Hens is, and I guess it's why I lean with Delaware with the points. I mean, I did take them with the points, but it's just that I talked a little bit about this before where, the only game that Jacksonville State lost this year was against Austin Peay. And that was a game where they were matched physically and they didn't respond. They didn't answer the bell. Now, does that mean that that's going to happen every time they go out there and they play a team that can match their physicality? I don't know. We're going to find out today because Delaware are very physical in defense. And what I like is that Delaware was in this type of game, the exact type of game we're going to see today. They didn't get the 42-14 blowout. They got a tough, hard-nosed, running-based, tough game in the trenches that had to be won in the trenches, a hard-fought win, and they were able to come out with the victory. They were able to come out on the other side. They were able to make the big plays when they needed to. They were able to get the turnovers when they needed to. They were able to get the opposing offense off the field when they had to. And I just haven't seen Jacksonville State in that type of position. And, when their mental toughness gets tested, are they going to be good enough? Are they going to answer the bell? Like I said, that Austin Peay game, I lost money on it. So maybe I'm a little biased, but, I had Jacksonville State that day, but they just did not, they just cowered when they were matched physically. So I think the Blue Hens can be the more physical team here, and they can come away with the win. Getting the 3.5, I think, is huge. So definitely shop around. I saw it down to 3 in most places today, but if you can get the 3.5, jump on it and take the Blue Hens, man. I think the Blue Hens are going to the Final Four, baby.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We're the same there.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that'll be exciting to get Delaware into that action. But this is the one game that I think can really go, just get away from Delaware if they get down early. Like I could see it going much like Jacksonville State's game last week where they just get a lead and then it just turns into turnovers and it turns into more points on the board. So I think it's going to be key for Delaware to keep their composure. But like I said, I think that, see, everyone's kind of like, they scrape by Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart, very good running team. So, they were able to kind of get the stops when they needed to against that type of team. So I like them here, man. My money's on Delaware. I'm taking the dog. I got 2 dogs so far. And then we're going to the 6:00 game tonight. North Dakota, who really took a lot of people by surprise early in the season. They had the big win against Southern Illinois, and then they beat South Dakota State, the number one, seed. And a lot of people were thinking they might be the best team in the FCS, and then they got derailed by the Bisons. They went on the road into the Fargo Dome, and the Bisons just ran all over them. And James Madison could very well do that today. North Dakota getting 3 points here against a James Madison team that, again, I think is just a little bit overvalued, gets by a little bit on name value. I just don't think that this year's team is as tough as teams have been in the past. They were number 2. They lost to the Bisons last year in the finals. This total's coming in at 52.5, so expecting a little more scoring in this one. But North Dakota getting 3 points here on the road against James Madison. What are you thinking about in this one, Dave?
Yeah, I'm a big JMU guy. I mean, they had their, kind of little slips earlier. I think they even rose to the rankings at one point to be number 1 in FCS. We had that crazy, everything going on early in the year. But this team, I mean, what do they average? 9.8 points per game. They are a fierce defensive team. And you're looking at a North Dakota team that on the other side of the ball, they're not that good defensively. They're below national average in yards per play defensively. So that tells me JMU just has to be efficient. I mean, they got a great quarterback in Cole Johnson. He's 5th in yards per attempt. Juwan Hamilton, 10th in yards per carry. This team's very efficient moving the ball. Got a great defense. They just need to convert on those opportunities in the red zone. That's where they've struggled. I like JMU in this game. Slight favorite. I expect this to be even a little more, in my opinion. So that's what scares me. But I like them at home. Give me them minus the 3. Give me the fave.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Fighting Hawks. I'm going to go on the other side here. I'm going with the dog again. And it's interesting in the fact that it's, maybe James Madison, sandbagging during the year. I haven't been overly impressed with them. But the one thing that you did talk about that scares me is they're kind of built offensively a little bit like the Bisons. Like, they're going to try and run them. And North Dakota really struggled against the Bisons. But I love how North Dakota looked last week. They were well rested. They were fresh. A lot of people thought they might come in and be a little sluggish because of the time off that they had. They hammered Missouri State and Bobby Petrino 44-10. Otis Way, their running back, is averaging 7 yards per carry. He's one of the best running backs in the FCS. And, this is a team that outside of Sam Houston, I really think has the best shot of knocking off number 1 South Dakota State. They beat them during the regular season, 28-17. They hammered Southern Illinois, who plays South Dakota State this weekend. They hammered them 44-21. Tommy Schuster's top 7 in completion percentage, top 25 in passing efficiency. So at the quarterback spot, they don't have a game changer, but I think Schuster can get the job done. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have the gaudy touchdown stats, but I've watched them play in key spots, high leverage situations. He's a playmaker. He gets it done. The only thing I'm concerned about, and why I can definitely understand why you're taking James Madison in this matchup, is I don't know if North Dakota is going to be able to stop the run. And if they can't stop the run, it's going to get away from them quick. James Madison, on the other hand, 2nd best rushing defense in the FCS. So Otis Way is 7 yards per carry. Again, strength against this James Madison defense. I'm banking on a little bit of Missouri Valley here. Like, I'm banking on, hey, you know what? If these teams look like they're equal strength on strength, I'm going to go with the better conference. But James Madison, again, a tremendous program, went to the finals last year, played the Bisons tough. So I don't know, man. I think it's just maybe I'm just not willing to fade. Giving North Dakota maybe a little bit benefit of the doubt because they're from the Missouri Valley. But the other part that kind of swayed me is that, North Dakota is top 10 in sacks. So if they're able to put some points on the board early and JMU has to pass, it could be problematic. Like, they could get to JMU. JMU wants to run the ball. The quarterback, very good, Cole Johnson. I'm not going to take anything away from them there. But I think that they can cause some turnovers with their pressure, which has been a key to them this year. They've done very well in turnover margin, defense at creating turnovers. That's kind of how they lived very much like a bend don't break defense, right? Like they kind of get run on, but then they make the big play and get the turnovers. Is that going to happen? If they get out to a lead today, I think that they're going to be very successful, and they can get the job done here. Didn't take the points, took the money line at plus 106. I think North Dakota can shock some people here. It's definitely a dog play. Very successful so far this year in playing those short dogs. Dogs in general, I haven't been successful 6-11 on the season, right? Not good. Have definitely been more successful betting favorites in the FCS, but with short dogs, I'm 5-6, which isn't winning, but it's a lot better than those long dogs. And I think that's kind of a situation now with the Keel, and we've seen a lot of short dogs in these playoffs. And I'm riding them in the first 3 games. I'm taking the short dogs. I got 2 of them on the money line with Sam Houston State and North Dakota. But James Madison, I mean, they're a team that could win it all. So, no shame. It's going to be a game that I think we're going to know very early if North Dakota can get stops on defense. And they're going to need to if they're going to pull out the victory.
Yeah, good pick. Like, we're on the other sides of that one. All good. We'll see. 6 o'clock. Maybe we'll both have a couple wins in our belt, and that one will be riding for fun. So we got the 4th one, the big one, right?
Yeah, the night game, South Dakota State. And this is one I wanted to talk about. South Dakota State and Southern Illinois. I talked a little bit earlier about Southern Illinois and how they've had, a crazy season. Like a real crazy season just with all the injuries that they faced and everything. And, they made a lot of waves because a lot of people are like, hey, 3-loss team, they're probably not going to get into the playoffs, even though they had the huge win against North Dakota State. They had really successful teams. And the coach actually went out, they rescheduled a game the week before the playoffs because their last 2 games got canceled because the teams packed up, or they had COVID and they packed up and they quit. And they really felt like that was impacting their chance to make the playoffs. So they scheduled that last week game against Southeast Louisiana, another ranked team. They got the victory. They got they got the playoff bid, the at-large bid because of that victory. The committee believed in them, and they went in and showed it by beating Weber State, who I think was the number 3 seed in the 16. They went out and got the upset victory last week. And I just want to show a tweet from when a statement from their coach when those 2 games got canceled at the end of the year, because I think it's really prevalent to kind of talk about the adversity that this team went through this season. So I'm going to put it up real here quick. Nick Hill's statement on the cancellation of the last two games. And you can see he talked about, the players and coaches being committed to do the right thing the entire season. No excuses. He said they had a freak blizzard from practicing 10 days leading up to the season opener against North Dakota. He said other teams opted out due to weather. We played. We started the season 4-1, ranked 5th in the country, then lost 2 starting quarterbacks and 2 starting defensive tackles. When other teams opted out due to injuries, we played. Last Saturday against Missouri State, we're down to 5 defensive linemen, traveled 11 true freshmen. We played. Not one time this season our team, complained or looked for excuses. We lost 2 games in a row. The experts say we're out of the playoffs, and not one person questioned continuing to play. They practiced on Easter Sunday. They could have taken the easy way out, but they played. And that was kind of like their motto and their plea to the committee, to make the playoffs. And it just kind of shows you their mentality, the mental toughness that this team has. And they went off and they got a big upset last week against Weber State. But they get rewarded with the number 1 team in the FCS, South Dakota State, a team that absolutely steamrolled them during the season. I believe the score was 44-3 in that matchup. And they're catching 15.5 here. We have a total of 54.5. And Dave, when I look at this game, I love this Southern Illinois Salukis team. I love their fight. I love their determination. I love their grit. I love everything about this program. I don't think they have a chance in hell of winning this game today against South Dakota State. They are the premier team in the FCS. They went and beat the Bisons in the Fargo Dome at the end of the season, to put an exclamation point on their year, right before the playoffs. And it's sad to see them go out like this, but I don't think the 15.5 is nearly enough points here to make me take Southern Illinois. It was almost like an auto bet with South Dakota State for me.
I agree. Listen, Southern Illinois, if you tuned back months ago, how I was kind of excited on the prospects of their season. They actually ended 2019 with not getting into the playoffs because they were voted out when they thought they were one of the better teams with, I think it was a 7-3 record at the time. Got a little retribution this year, a little payback. I don't know if that tweet helped it. That was a beautiful tweet. But the story is they got in, and they've done the most, I think, with what they could have done getting in. They were outgained last week by Weber State. They had up 13.7 yards per play in the pass game. They are a very weak defense. They're outside the top 75 nationally in yards per play defensively. They're only one kind of strength as pass defense, and it got exploited last week. I think maybe their pass defense numbers aren't as terrible because they got to play Zeb Nolan and some other trash quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where it ends. It's a good story, but South Dakota State is steamrolling and they're ready. I mean, they did it again last week, right? What they got 31-3 win. They are just tough everywhere.
They're so good, man.
They beat you down every which way. And I just think that's what's going to happen again today. I think I agree with you. The number, it could be 20, and I'd probably still roll South Dakota State. Anything under 3 touchdowns, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It's hilarious that you say that because that's actually what I was thinking when the lines were coming out. Because I was listening to a podcast, Bet the FCS, and they were kind of talking about it. And the one guy said, this is going to come out at like 14 points, and the other guy's like, no way, like that's too large of a number. And I'm like, man, if this thing's under 21, like I am smashing it. Like if we got to like 21.5, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, do I want to play the total? Like, I don't want to lay that kind of, points, but I'm going to lay the 15.5 here. I actually got it at 15 yesterday at BetMGM. So definitely shop around and get the best lines. Not sure if BetMGM still has it at 15 because I know it was kind of moving back up today, but try and get to 15 if you can. If not, 15.5, I think is still good. South Dakota State, like going into the season, the big question mark with them was the quarterback, and I actually faded them week 1 against Northern Iowa, lost that matchup. True freshman Mark Gronowski got the start, and I didn't think he was even going to play this year. They had a couple other guys, and he's been an absolute stud, man. He is a dual threat. They have the number 1 red zone offense in the FCS. They score 96% of the time that they're in the red zone. Touchdown or field goal 96% of the time. And they really use his mobility well. Gronowski's got a great arm, but they have some designed runs for him. They have one of the best running backs in the FCS and Pierre Strong. He's been a little banged up, but their defense, again, on that side of the ball, very, very sound. We saw that against the Bisons. They were able to hold up physically against that Bisons rushing attack. So I definitely think, that they're going to have their own way with Southern Illinois. When you look at their defense, Dave, a team hasn't scored 20 on them since February, and that was North Dakota we talked about earlier when they beat them 28-17. They're the only team to really get over 20 on them all season. The last 3 games, they let up 3 points twice, and they let up 17 to the Bisons, right? So we're talking about 23 points in 3 games, and that includes the Bisons, who could be one of the best teams in the FCS, and it includes a playoff game against Holy Cross last week that they won 31-3. A month ago, these same 2 teams played, and the Jackrabbits steamrolled them 44-3. So I'm going to lay the points here. The favorites, I'm 9-9 this year betting favorites, and when I'm betting short favorites, I'm 0-3. So, the double-digit favorites, I've been a little bit more successful here. I think you can kind of zero in on them, and I think this is the perfect spot here to bet. To bet the Jackrabbits, and I think they roll again today, man.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me again is look at the rushing offense versus the rushing defense. Jackrabbits 4th nationally overall. SIU 85th. That can't just change. You can't just teach guys to stop the run. I mean, we've seen it in football. Maybe you can load the box, but I still don't think it works. When you're more physical, it goes back. It reminds me of, remember San Fran versus Green Bay in the NFC Championship 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Everybody knew San Fran was going to run it, and they still ran it for 300 yards.
Patton couldn't do anything. Do anything. They just ran right. It cost him his job, right? Didn't they fire him after that? Or no, they brought him. Did they bring him back or did they fire him?
I thought they fired him. And literally, when you're more physical, I just think that battle in the trenches, it's just too dominant and too wide of a gap. So for sure, I think they control the ball, and I think they roll easily.
100%, 100%. So let's get into our 3 bets. It's going to be a tremendous day in the FCS, and I love watching playoff football. I don't care if it's springtime, man. The weather's nice. Put the games on, have some drinks, have some fun, and hopefully we win some money. Hopefully these come home, and we can cash in. I can't wait for next week's game, the Final Four, and then all the way to the championship. It's going to be a ton of fun. So I'm on 3 dogs and 1 big favorite. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see how it goes, but definitely going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into our 3 plays before we get out of here, Dave. We're going to kick off 3 each across all sports. I'm going to let you fire away first with yours, and give us your best one first, and then work your way down, my friend.
All right, I'll start in baseball. Like it's been really, really good, and it's all about analyzing the numbers, seeing what's important to me. And I'm going to start with the night game in MLB today. A little close to home, I get it, but it's just there's a few things sticking out to me, and that's the Philadelphia Phillies minus 118 over the New York Mets. The Phillies got to see David Peterson earlier in the year, the Mets starting pitcher, left-handed pitcher, and lit him up. Then they struggled with him up in New York, but that's all right. So far, 1-1. Eflin hasn't got to see the Mets yet, but here's Eflin. He's a guy that's actually – they're hitting 344 on balls in play against Eflin. That's extremely high. The guy is average is usually under 300. So he's been getting a little bit of bad luck pitching and still pitching very well. But what's even more important is Eflin at home. Eflin has had 3 games at home, 20 innings pitched overall, and only 4 earned runs, ERA under 3. He knows how to pitch in CBP, keeps the ball low. The Mets offense is 16th overall versus right-handed pitching, batting. So it's not like they just rip the cover off the ball. Eflin's a tough guy to hit. I think he's got a good matchup. I think the Phillies have a little bit of energy after last night, getting some bad calls running out of the baseline. So I'm going to go with the Phillies on the short number tonight, minus the 118. They can't win 2 in a row, but they can win 1 in a row. So let's start with there tonight.
There you go. I like it, man. I like it. And I think, the mentality of this team coming into today's game, like you touched on, really does make a difference. They're kind of backs against the wall. They feel like something was taken from them. Yeah. And I do think they're going to come out motivated on a Sunday, which is, both teams might not be as motivated, right? It's Sunday, okay, Sunday night baseball, but, I think the Phillies come out and get it done. I love the play. Minus 118 is a good price there. Definitely like it. I'm going to take a little bit of a bigger favorite. I'm going to go with St. Louis Cardinals here against Pittsburgh, minus 144. And, on the hill, we got Martinez against Tim Crow. We got the Cards coming off the 7-3 win, Friday night. Winners of 3 in a row, right? I like to back these streaking teams, dude. When the bus is spitting out money, you hop on until it stops spitting out money, and then you hop off. So I'm going to back the Cardinals here. St. Louis 7-3 in their last 10 as a road favorite. Crow 4 walks, 5 hits in just under 5 innings this year, right? So, not really that impressive. As far as the pitching matchup, I lean towards Martinez here. I just expect the Cardinals to stay hot. I like them in this matchup. So they're going to be my MLB play. Minus 144, so you're going to pay a little bit of juice, but it's going to be worth it as long as we end up with the win.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. I had St. Louis, like I said yesterday. Bats came alive, knocked it around. Pittsburgh, so they've been actually a little bit of a surprise so far this year, but I think it's time to come back or regress to where they should be. So good pick. Hey, I'm going to go to baseball again. One more in here. I'm looking at the Houston Astros minus 130 today against the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, I'm a big Tampa Bay guy. I just love what they do. But when you look at the guy on the mound in Rich Hill, I'm not sure I'm loving what he's done so far. He's pulling up the stats to date. He's a guy that is definitely getting away with some good defense behind him. He's expected to have almost a double what his current ERA is. It's just he's been getting a little lucky on that side of the ball. And then you look at Houston, a team that bashes left-handed pitching. So it really lines up well. I know the Christian Javier's pitching, he's been up or down, but this Tampa Bay offense is not one that's going to put up big numbers against you. They're middle of the road at home against right-handed pitching, 18th overall. So for me, I like the Astros matchup against the lefty, and primarily I look at Rich Hill. He's been lucky so far. And let's take that luck and go the other way. Give me the Astros minus the 130 today.
There you go. Fade that boy. Pay for the pay for the regression, right? Regression's coming. We got to take advantage of it. Definitely good.
His ERA is 3. His fielding independent and expected ERA is over 5. So I mean,
right?
Listen again, something's bound.
They're not going to find gloves forever. Yeah, no, those balls ain't going to find gloves forever. So.
No, I mean, you're getting 240 batting average balls in play, one of the lowest in the league. Yeah, come on, we're good.
Love it. Let's go. My second one, I'm going to go to golf. These guys should be teeing off shortly, but you can play it live. But I like Max Homa to actually come from behind a little bit. I think he's 2 strokes off the lead. To get the win, I got him a plus 225. Homa is a guy that I always liked, but I think he really has played well yesterday. I like him coming into today. 17 birdies, which is more than anyone this weekend. Got 2 eagles on top of that. Dude, he finished strong yesterday. 6.36 strokes gained tee to green. And you look at the guys ahead of him, Bradley and Burns. Bradley continues to shoot worse as the weekend goes on. He went from 7 under. He came out the gates hot, and then the 5 under yesterday, only 2 under. And we've seen some ridiculous putting from Burns, right? I don't think that's going to continue. I can definitely see that drop off as the pressure gets hotter on Sunday, right? Everything boils down to today. The pressure goes up. The putting's going to regress. I think we see even more regression than what we saw yesterday out of his putting today. Implied odds of plus 225 gives Homa a 30% chance to win. I think it's more. I like Max Homa. I got him 225. I think we're going to bring it home. So I'm going to be rooting for Max today.
I like it. I like Max a lot. I got him in a couple DFS lineups. Would love to see him close it out. Max seemed the most steadiest yesterday. I think he led the field in strokes to gain approach in the 3rd round. Some of his putts didn't drop, and around the green is actually where he struggled coming out of the bunker. But in total, he made a bomb on 15. Like, he got some unlucky on 16, but his iron game was the best in the field yesterday. I always like looking into that. Homa plus 225. I saw him even at 250 on some other sites. Nice little number. I'll tell you, I'm going to go with a Max. Go ahead.
He's been steady too, like throughout the whole weekend. Like, it's not like he had like one good day and that's been kind of carrying his like, if you look throughout the week, I think it was like -5 Thursday. He's 5 under Thursday, and I think he was 3 under Friday, and then 5 under again on Saturday. So I expect him to, I think there's a real high floor with Max Homa coming into today.
I do too. I think he's very live to win that event. The other one that I would say is live to win the event is Abraham Answer. I like how he's been steadily approaching his game all through the week and finishing with the 66 yesterday. You can get him at 21. 4 strokes is a lot to come back, and he hasn't won a tournament yet, but today might be the day. I know I gave you him top 30 money on Wednesday's telecast, broadcast, whatever you want to call it, but looking good there. Let me give you one today that I really like. And that's Charlie Hoffman, -109 over Cameron Tringale. And they were pretty even in strokes gained approach yesterday. The difference was strokes gained putting. Charlie Hoffman 3-putt, 3 greens on the back 9 yesterday. And I just don't expect that to happen again today. Tringale actually made a couple more putts than Hoffman. They ended up 6 strokes different in putting yesterday. All we do is need to bring that back down. They're equal in ball striking. And you're getting a dog money with Hoffman. So Hoffman -109 against Tringale, who's going for 117. I think Hoffman's going to be pissed off at the way he finished that back 9. He had 3 putt on a par 5. Got a little lucky on 16 where he hit one in the woods and could only barely advance it. I think he's going to focus in, and I actually think he makes a run at this thing today. We've been talking about him week after week. He's got one of the best ball striking games in town right now. So I'll take him on the short line today. I like him to beat Cameron Tringale.
Nice. He's going to pop soon, man. He's going to pop and win one of these soon, without a doubt. It's definitely coming. I'm going to move to the NHL. One game today, right? So it didn't have a big choice as far as that's concerned, but we got the Lightning and the Red Wings, and I'm going to bet that this is going to be a boring one. Under 5.5 is my play in this matchup. Listen, Tampa's dropped 5 of 7 on the road. They're not playing well on the road. Again, they got key scorers out. The Wings are 31-18 to the under this season. They're the second lowest scoring team in the NHL at 2.21 goals per game. Larkin, Bertuzzi, they're all missing pieces on offense for the Red Wings. Both teams missing a lot of pieces on offense. the Red Wings are a team that just drags people into these low-scoring affairs because they can't score, and that they're a very good defensive team. Like, it's not just that they can't score; they're a sneaky good defensive team as well. I think under 5.5 is good to go. I played this one early this morning, and this is one that I'm probably not going to watch. I'm just going to check the score at the end of the game and make sure I won.
I like it. I like it. Can't watch them all.
Can't watch them all, man, and that one's not going to make the cut. Too much popping today. So you got anything else before we get out of here, man?
No, posted a few on Twitter. So as always, check us when we're throwing some stuff out. Always the hashtag betting for breakfast. We'll throw out there as we sprinkle in those where we see we get the advantages, where we see we really want to pop. And hey, let's win a little money together. They're not all going to hit, but so far as we've been doing this, it's been more than half. So it's been a really good ride so far. So let's keep rolling.
Yeah, we're definitely winners. We're going to continue to be winners. Make sure you like and subscribe the YouTube channel over at Heat Ratio Sports Network. Have a ton of great content, but mostly important, you subscribe, you get the notifications, you hit the bell. You'll know exactly when we're going live. So we appreciate all your support. Continue to support. Listen, it is a beautiful day out. Relax, pour some drinks, and let's make some money. Let's cash these bets. Until next week, have a good one. Good luck, everybody. And let's hope we all come